Hey everyone, welcome back to Topher Drives, where today you join me for some exclusive first impressions on this Vegas Red G45 2025 BMW X3 M50. Today we're in Spartanburg, South Carolina, literally across the street from the factory that built this X3, and we're going to give you some raw first impressions on what this new G45 is like to drive. We talk a lot about first impressions videos, and well, this is just about as raw as it gets, because I was just in those parking spots over there. I drove the car to here, so I haven't driven it over 5 miles an hour. We will be experiencing this for the first time together. So let's talk about what's in front of us. We'll talk about what's new. I mean, this thing is pretty much completely new from the ground up. The G45 is the 4th generation of the BMW X3, brand new for 2025. And this is the M50. This is the top dog currently. We don't have the new X3M or M competition yet, but this is the successor to the M40i. And luckily, I'm so happy BMW kept this. Under the hood, we still have our coveted B58, but now power is bumped up from the 382 horsepower to 393 horsepower and 428 pound-feet of torque. This also features a 48-volt mild hybrid system. It's still xDrive all-wheel drive. It still has an 8-speed automatic, so the recipe is still here for a great SAV, as BMW calls it, sports activity vehicle. So I'm really excited to get behind the wheel and see what it's like. The Topher drove one of these yesterday, and he said it's his second favorite new BMW behind the 6-speed manual Z4. So that's really saying something. This thing must drive really, really well. So we'll poke around this real quick. We'll take it for a little drive around Spartanburg. It's still home. It's literally come a quarter of a mile across the street from where it was built. And well, we'll give you some final thoughts. Of course, we'll probably have one of these back at home at HQ. We'll be able to live with it, commute it, road trip it, whatever. But for the time being, I figured while I'm here, why don't we see this car for the first time together? So M50, this name obviously is new. BMW ditched the I designation all these years later. Of course, I used to stand for injection, and no, BMW has not switched back to carburetors. The I is now reserved for electric vehicles. So eventually there will be an iX3, and they didn't want to confuse people. So we just have the 50, which this is a 3-liter, so it doesn't really stand for anything, but whatever. I try not to think about BMW's naming literature too much. Here we go. In the back, of course, it's still an X3. We still have plenty of cargo space. And underneath this floor, we have a spare. Check that out. Not a full-size spare, but a spare is better than no spare. My mom's X3, her G01, that does not have a spare. So nice to see that here in this G45 M50. We've got quad exhaust tips. I mean, guys, this is a pretty polarizing design, and it kind of is doing that BMW thing where it looked, I don't know how else to describe it. It looked dreadful in the press photos, the press release. It looked bad, but now I'm seeing this M50 trim in Vegas Red. It's pretty striking. It's a little less busy than we're used to. BMW's kind of like flattened out a lot of their sharp edges, and yeah, I don't really mind the way this looks. Let's pop the hood real quick before we jump into the interior. Again, we still have the 3-liter twin power turbo inline-6 cylinder, but now 393 horsepower, 428 pound-feet of torque. We have some chassis bracing. We have what looks like a new engine cover on this B58 as well. Pretty sweet. Not really a ton to see under here, but figured I would show you guys anyways. Pretty big snoot on this, and it does have the glowing kidney grill option. So these light up at night and surround your kidneys with LEDs. M50 starts from 64 grand. This one today, as spec, is 72,000. We've got a couple of options, including the M Sport Pro package, which gives you red brake calipers and Shadowline trim throughout, so black window trim and everything like that. We're running on some Goodyear tires. I've been seeing a lot of Goodyear tires lately being integrated into new vehicles, with a 255/40 R21 on the front, and on the rear we have a 285/35/21, so a bit of a staggered setup there. And these are a Goodyear Eagle F1, so they are actually a pretty aggressive summer tire. All right, let's poke around in the back here, see what we've got. This just has A pretty standard black interior, but we do have some Alcantara and blue, red. We have some M stitching on these seats, so that looks quite nice. Otherwise, like as far as dimensions and the door panels go, we've got some pretty nice design language inside this new G45. Sat behind myself here at 5'11". Of course, plenty of room in the back, and I suppose you have a spot here to mount a tablet if you so desire. Otherwise, there's not a whole lot. We do have some vents, which have these tabs that I'm really not a big fan of, but at least you can see the vents back here. You should be able to aim them a little bit easier. You've got a tray for your phone, you've got 2 USB-C ports, and then here in the middle, we have a fold-down armrest with some cup holders. I think it's funny, BMW has ditched the design where the cup holders are covered at first, and then you push the button and the little thing pops open. I suspect it's because those kept breaking. It's pretty fidgety on my mom's G01 X3, and that's a 2020, so it's not very old, and that thing already doesn't really work super well. Additionally, on the door panels, we have some cup holders down here, really big spaces to fit your big Stanley Cup or a Hydro Flask, whatever that may be. And I like the way they've integrated this door handle in with the speaker grill here in this kind of like C-shaped trim panel. So all comes together pretty nicely back here. I'll take a quick look up front, but of course we'll be up there in just a second to drive this thing. Let's just walk around it one more time. I'm curious to get your guys' thoughts on the design language here. BMW just showed us kind of the future of the brand and what a lot of the new cars are going to look like, which you all will see early next year, but I don't know. I don't have a full opinion formed on the exterior of this car yet. Maybe by the time I spend a week with one, it'll help me decide if I like it or not. Front door panels look pretty similar, though these appear to light up. I'd imagine that's part of your ambient lighting. In the front, we have sport seats with crumb collectors. Plenty of crumbs in there from the past couple of journalists that have driven this. This car does have about 1,000 miles on it, so it's plenty broken in for us. We'll be able to see what it can do today. Biggest thing to talk about up front is that this now has iDrive 9. So this is the newest iDrive system. I'll be honest, it looks pretty much exactly the same as iDrive 8.5, but we'll play with it a little bit and see what it's like. But before we do that, let's fire this thing up and see what it sounds like. Not too much upon firing this thing up. Of course, we have that 48-volt mild hybrid system, so the car kind of just begins. You don't hear a starter motor or anything like that. Let's stick this into sport mode and give it some revs and see if we still have a little bit of character to this B58. Okay, gotta slam that door, I guess. Not a whole lot of pops and burbles or anything, but I love the sweet, silky nature of this B58, and I haven't driven it with its newest tune here with the 393 and 428, so we'll have to see how that goes. Key remains the same as far as like we've seen for the past couple of years with new BMW models. Stick that in my pocket so it doesn't rattle around. I like the packaging in here. I like that we have some places to put things, specifically a phone. You can put a phone here, you could put a phone here, you can plug in, you can charge both phones. You've got 2 cup holders that sit nice and far down. Pretty good size center console there. You know, not the biggest thing in the world, but at least it's there. Nice aluminum trim. There's really no piano black in here at all because this is all ambient lighting. This lights up at night. Everything else is matte. And then we have these tiny little touches of aluminum in the cabin. I think that's nice. Actually, I've just found some piano black here on the door panel, and that is actually a spot that you touch because you touch this to close the door. So, okay, so a little bit of piano black, but not a terrible amount. With this iDrive 9, we do still have the iDrive knob, so you can use this physical control to use your infotainment. I've connected my phone to CarPlay wirelessly. We do, of course, have wireless Android Auto in here as well, and everything seems to react pretty decently. Actually, now that I say that, I did not ask you to... Thank you. I did not ask you to go into WhatsApp. Just as I say, everything is working pretty smoothly. It is actually lagging slightly in CarPlay, that is, but it seems if you actually use the BMW UI, it does a little bit better. Climate controls are still in the infotainment, but as we saw in iDrive 8.5, they all kind of permanently sit down here as far as your temperatures go. So if you have your climate control set to auto, it's really not a big deal. But if you're somebody that likes to adjust your fan speed on the fly, you do still have to go and press the fan speed button and adjust that manually. Let's put this on our navigation screen for today, and we'll go for a drive. We have a Harman Kardon sound system in here that's standard on the X3 M50, and if we have a chance later on, we will give that a test, but our drive route is only about 10 minutes, so we'll see if we have maybe just a slight chance for like 10 seconds of listening to this Harman Kardon. What is this? Oh, that's the vent? Is that for the vent? I think that's the vent. Interesting. So your vent controls for these corner dashboard vents are on the door panel. Peculiar. 2 memory seat settings. And I guess that's just about it. We have these vent controls up here as well that I don't particularly care for. Anyways, cool. All right, let's take this thing for a drive and see what it's like on the road. Into reverse, really nice high quality backup camera and 360 cam. Love this Vegas red exterior, and I love that that's reflected into our cameras inside as well. Before we set off, actually, I'm going to take us out of sport. I want to start in personal mode here. Cool. Auto stop start is on right now, and I don't see a physical button to disable it. I think since this is a 48-volt mild hybrid system, you just kind of have to deal with it. Usually in cars like this that start so smoothly, I don't really mind too much. Yeah, I can see, take my foot off the brake and it kind of just begins, comes to life there. We have ultra light steering on this car in comfort mode when you are just kind of driving around parking lots, which is really what I love with a luxury SUV like this. It should be quite effortless when you're just driving casually, and it does seem to be so far. Driving position seems nice as well. I can see over that hood, even with my seat in the lowest position. And our rush hour is just kind of beginning here in Spartanburg. Oh yeah, that is fantastic. The B58 is one of my favorite engines on sale today out of anything. This newest rendition feels really, really silky. I mean, this engine was smooth as it was, paired with this ZF 8-speed automatic. Chef's kiss. Interior comfort is quite nice as well. Let's get our mirrors adjusted just a little bit here. Driver's seat feels nice, and luckily all of our seat controls are physical buttons on the side of the seat. What I love so much about this B58 is how it's there when you want it to be, but when you don't, it just exists in the background. Okay, enough about the engine. Let's talk about the actual X3, the car that we're driving. BMW usually does a pretty good job disguising their SAVs as sedans. You know, they don't necessarily drive as much like SUVs as some of the competitors. This feels to be no exception to that. And actually, now that I bring that up, I want to talk about some of the dimensions of this car. It's about 1 inch longer and 1 inch wider than the outgoing G01, but it's 1 inch shorter. So it has a little bit of a wider stance. Let's go sport mode here to enter the highway and see what this thing's got. Let's go S mode as well, sharpen up our gear changes. We also have this boost function here with our carbon fiber paddle shifters. Think of this kind of as Porsche's sport response mode. It kind of just puts you in the lowest gear and sportiest setting possible, regardless of what drive mode you're in. Man, that suspension gets pretty stiff when you're in sport mode. We've got an M4 CS chasing us. Gave him a little bit of a run. Oh yeah. Oh my goodness. Good old Goodyear Eagle F1 tires. All right, we're gonna slow it down and come in behind this 18-wheeler. You can also, of course, take manual control. This is cool. All right, let's listen here for a second to our NVH. I'm gonna put us back into drive. Even on these Eagle F1s, pretty dang quiet here on the highway. Granted, we are only going 55. Okay, don't love the final destination scenario happening in front of me right now. We're going to give this truck plenty of space. We're going to do a little bit more highway driving. Why don't we queue up and get ready to test this Harman Kardon system as we hop back on and get ready to wrap up this super quick little first impressions drive. That thing's got some kick to it, huh? A little bit, yeah. Pure chaos in front of us right now. All right, we're still in sport. Let's take an entrance ramp here. Wow. Yes, machine. Okay, we have traffic. We're gonna go back into our personal mode, which is BMW talk for normal, comfort, whatever. And let's test out this Harman Kardon, see what it's got as we sit in this traffic. Not Artemis, there we go. These Harman Kardon systems just get more and more impressive from BMW. The first really good one I heard was a couple of years ago in the i4, and since then with these new gens of BMW cars, they have just gotten really good. This is zeroed out, all just standard settings. I haven't messed with any of the EQ, and it really sounds fantastic. So good on BMW for investing a little bit more into these sound systems. I think it just suits the rest of the nice nature here of the car, the upscale feeling of these new SUVs. So, okay, we're gonna exit here and just about wrap up our video. I'm gonna show you guys what boost mode does here. see it rapidly puts you into sport, the lowest gear possible. And, you know, boost mode is nothing new. We've seen this in BMWs for quite some time now. But it's cool to have that function. The road holding of this X3 and just the overall driving dynamics as far as the steering goes, you know, I don't have like the best idea of what this front end is doing, but I would say this is the closest an X3 has ever felt to a 3 Series. And I'd imagine that's kind of what they're going for with making this car a little bit lower, a little bit wider, a bit more of a car-ish design overall. So yeah, I'm pretty impressed with this thing. It drives really nice. I mean, just driving it casually is also really satisfying. A lot of these new BMW cars, they're all very effortless. I'm not super irritated with anything over here. Granted, I've only been driving it for 10 minutes, so of course we all know the true test of a car is living with it for a week, which is what we do back at home. And first impressions drives, you don't always get all the information, but at least we can kind of get a first look at this new G45. And that's where it was built. Let's scooch in behind this Altima coupe. How many of those exist still? I don't think I see any of those back in Michigan. Okay, I've sat in this long enough now, I feel like I can talk to you guys about elbow comfiness, driver's compartment, everything like that. I like the way this dashboard is positioned. I think this sits low enough here, the console area, to where you don't feel claustrophobic in this car. Headroom is fantastic, even with this Sky Lounge panoramic roof in here. And my elbows are quite comfy. Really, really soft padding on our center console as well as our driver's door panel. Looks like this doesn't do a great job holding the phone in place. I wish they had that little thing that came down and held the phone like you get in the X1. Thought maybe they would have integrated that into the X3. Sweet, all right guys, well, I essentially had no warning whatsoever. I had no idea I was going to be driving this car today, so I hope you forgive my kind of lack of preparedness for this video, but I also hope that you were able to kind of get a little bit of an idea of what this new G45 is like to drive. And I'm excited to spend some more time with this thing. Alrighty guys, well, as we pull back in, Perry wants to get some glamour shots here of the Vegas Red X3. Alrighty guys, well, that's just about going to wrap it up for us today. We'll go and drive back over to where we started. We'll give you one last look at this new X3 M50, and that'll wrap up our little first impressions drive. Overall, I mean, pretty much just about what I expected. These BMW SUV, SAV, whatever you want to call them, they just get better and better, and they drive more and more like cars every year, it seems. So, nothing but the best, I suppose. Ride quality is nice too, even on these 20 and 21 inch wheels. I kind of want to see if you can go through customized drive modes. You should be able to. You can play with this iDrive 9 a little bit more together here. Let's see here, my modes. See if I can, okay, individual settings. So we can mess with drivetrain, driving dynamics, steering, and damping. Okay, so you can do comfort or sport damping. So if this were my car, I'd probably put my damping into comfort even in sport mode, but you do have some customization there for individual settings for all of these modes. How many modes do we have in this? Personal, sport, efficient, expressive, relax, digital art, and silent. Oh yes, silent is a new mode. Looks like that is closing our Sky Lounge panoramic roof. Basically what silent is it's like a calm display, so you can see we don't have much going on here on the gauge cluster. I figured silent may just be an option unique to the electric cars, but cool to see it here in the X3 as well. Alrighty. Cool guys, well that's going to wrap it up for us today. If you have any questions about the X3 M50, I can try and give you my thoughts, but just remember, I haven't lived with this car, so I'm not an expert on it like I normally am with these cars that we drive together. But come on, we're in Spartanburg. Had to try it out. Love this Vegas red too. Love a good red car. Cool. Alrighty, well that's going to do it for us today. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and we will see ya in the next one. Take care.